It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the three films of Labor Day weekend, August 31st, 2007. And on this particular weekend, we're celebrating another holiday not named Labor Day, as Rob Zombie takes a slasher film classic and updates it for a new generation. We also have a ping pong comedy, which is made by the guys who gave us Reno 911. Does it mean it's going to be a good movie? We'll wait to see what happens. And Kevin Bacon stars in a new version of Death Wish with a very different name, but when you see it, it's pretty much a modern version of Death Wish. But before we get to those movies, though, let's delve into the biggest new release of the weekend, which is, of course, Rob Zombie's new interpretation of the classic horror franchise, Halloween.
Inside every one of us, there exists a dark side. Most people rise above it, but some are consumed by it.
Michael?
Until there is nothing left but pure evil.
Behind these eyes, one finds only darkness. These are the eyes of a psychopath.
This August, Rob Zombie unleashes an extreme vision of terror and reinvents a legend. Halloween.
So yeah, the first mistake here is releasing this on Labor Day weekend instead of releasing it around Halloween. I think you could have done much better with the success rate. I mean, hey, at least the Blumhouse Halloween movies at least learned that lesson, but still, regardless, this is a reimagining of the original Halloween, which follows Michael Myers, who murdered his family as a child and becomes institutionalized at an asylum before breaking out and stalking Laurie Strode and her friends on Halloween night. And Rob Zombie got a lot of inspiration from John Carpenter, who, of course, made the original film, and Carpenter basically told him to make the film his own and decided to develop the film as both an origin story and a remake, allowing for more original content than simply refilming the same scene. So it doesn't do the Psycho route, where they basically just redid the original movie and just made it even stupider by some of the new additions they made. This film doesn't do that. I know a lot of people gave this movie a bad rap overall, and admittingly, yes, this is not one of Rob Zombie's better movies as a director, but I don't know, I think it's a lot better than some of the other horror remakes out there. I think it's a lot better than, the Friday the 13th remake that came out a couple years later, and the Nightmare on Elm Street one, easily. Yeah, it's definitely got a lot of flaws to it, especially considering that, you see some of the early signs of Rob Zombie using his wife, Sherry Moon Zombie, as kind of the focal point of this film more than Michael Myers, but that's not completely in this movie, but you see the little glimpses of what would eventually become in the second Halloween movie. We'll get to that later on, but that movie's much worse than this. This one does a pretty good job of recapturing the magic of the original Halloween. I think everybody's in their roles very well. I think having Malcolm McDowell play Dr. Loomis is a great replacement for Donald Pleasence. I mean, he just is so perfectly cast in that role. You got Danielle Harris, who was in a couple of Halloween movies back in the 80s. Bill Forsythe's in here. Brad Dourif. Tyler Mane is Michael in this movie when he's all grown up. I mean, there's a lot of really good recognizable names in here. And it is a very entertaining movie. It's a film that works for a number of different reasons. It works because you can tell Rob Zombie's trying to do something that's very different from Halloween, but also tries to stay true to what the original Halloween movies were all about. And I thought he did a pretty good job with it. I thought he made it work well in this movie. Not everything about it works, but it's a really good movie. It's a film I actually was kind of impressed at how much I actually enjoyed it, because I thought I didn't see this back when this came out, and I've heard so many people give it kind of a mixed opinion. It's got a lot of negative reviews, but I found myself really enjoying a lot more of it than most of it I didn't like. But that's just my personal take on it. But I thought it was actually pretty good. I actually kind of enjoyed this a lot. I like it. Rob Zombie's Halloween. Pretty good movie overall. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is Balls of Fury.
Country. Only one
summer movie has elite athletes. Deadly competition.
What part of sudden death didn't you understand?
Beautiful women.
Just wax off a horny.
Explosive action.
Wanna play rough? Okay!
And lots of tiny balls.
Don't be so hard on yourself.
Balls of fury.
In my hand, I hold the cricket.
Who to take the cricket from my hand?
You squish lucky cricket.
No. Rated PG-13.
So in the unsanctioned, underground, and unhinged world of extreme ping pong, the competition is brutal and the stakes are deadly. Down and out, former professional ping pong phenom Randy Daytona, played by Dan Fogler in his first leading role, is sucked into this maelstrom when FBI agent Rodriguez, played by George Lopez, recruits him for a secret mission. Randy is determined to bounce back and recapture his former glory and to smoke out his father's killer, one of the FBI's most wanted, Archfiend Fang, played by Christopher Walken. But after 2 decades out of the game, Randy can't turn his life around and avenge his father's murder without a team of his own. He calls upon the spiritual guidance of blind ping pong sage and restaurateur Wong, played by James Hong, and the training expertise of Master Wong's wildly sexy niece Maggie, played by Maggie Q. Great names here, but both of which also have a dark history with Fang. All roads lead to Fang's mysterious jungle compound and the most unique ping pong tournament ever staged. There, Randy faces such formidable players as his long-age Olympics opponent, the still vicious Carl Wolfstock, played by Thomas Lennon. Can Randy keep his eye on the ball? Will he achieve the redemption he craves while wielding a paddle? Is his backhand strong enough to triumph over rampant wickedness? Are you really get that invested in this movie? Because I tell you what, this is a film that had the potential to possibly be really, really funny and really stupid. Something on the lines of something like Beer Fest, but no. Sorry to tell you this, but this movie is anything but that. This is a film that is just so boring, so lifeless. It's not funny, it's not creative. And this is from the guys who gave us Reno 911, Thomas Lennon and Robert Ben Garant. Garant actually directed the movie, and they made a great Reno 911 movie earlier in the year, and they made other movies that have actually been very enjoyable that we've talked about on the show before. The Pacifier was a fun movie. You know, Herbie Fully Loaded was a fun movie. The Night at the Museum movies are a fun film. But this just feels like they just kind of are just running out of ideas, and they had no idea how to make this movie work. And it doesn't help that the casting, for the most part, is not very good. Dan Fogler is not a very convincing leading actor. Christopher Walken, as much as I like him, he is really phoning it in as the villain in this. Like, there's a whole lot of great talent all across the board here. You got all these notable names in here, but they're not really given anything funny to do. They're just there to be like stock comedy characters and just do stuff that they think is funny, and then that's it. I mean, there's nothing clever about this movie whatsoever. There's stupid elements here. Like, you could make stupid funny in a clever way, and this movie has none of that whatsoever. I couldn't believe how bad this movie was, especially with the guys behind Reno 911 working on it, because the guys who do Reno 911 are absolutely hilarious. But here, it's just not there, man. It's just a bore. Like, there's so many points in this movie where you think the movie's finally going to come to an end, and it's just like, nope, we got to add another climax to this. Nope, we got to add another climax. It's just like, it just goes all over the place, and it just feels like, you know, like there's just nothing there. It's just a bland, boring film that has nothing of value whatsoever. It's not funny, it's not creative, it wastes a good cast overall in here. It's an unbridled mess of a film. I couldn't believe how terrible this movie was, and yeah. I mean, I might have liked it back when I first saw it in theaters, but I've never had I've only seen it one other time, and the other time I saw it was like many years later, and looking at it, it's just like, okay, this is definitely not the movie that I thought I saw beforehand, but yeah, this is a pretty bad movie, so yeah. You can avoid Balls of Fury like the plague. It's a terrible movie. Such a major disappointment all across the board. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie here, and that is Kevin Bacon in Death Sentence.
I'm coming for your family.
How far would you go
I need guns.
to protect your family? Kevin Bacon, you go near my family. Death Sentence, rated R, starts Friday.
What, Kevin Bacon? What are you gonna do? I need to know what you're gonna do if he finds your family. Like, what a weird way to cut off that commercial. I mean, but this is Death Sentence, which Yeah, I said this was literally Death Wish, and I'm not even kidding. This is a film that is literally Death Wish. It's made by the same person who wrote the original book of Death Wish, even though this is unconnected to the previous Death Wish film series, but it's friggin' Death Wish, man. Kevin Bacon stars as Nick Hume, a man who takes the law into his own hands after his son is murdered by a gang member as an initiation ritual. Hume must then protect his family from the gang's resulting vengeance, and it's based off of a sequel to the original Death Wish novel by Brian Garfield, this is based off the original novel, and they could say that it's not connected to Death Wish, but it's the same friggin' movie, man. It's literally the same movie, except much more blood, much more gore, and no clever commentary to it whatsoever. Unlike the original Death Wish movie, which was actually pretty good, which was really good, I should say, and surprisingly, the Bruce Willis one remake that came out about 7-8 years ago, which was the one with Eli Roth directing it. That was one where I wasn't expecting much from it, but I actually watched it on TV not too long ago, and it's actually not that bad. I mean, it's actually a pretty decent remake overall, and one you should probably check out. That's the one I'd recommend checking out. This just feels like a movie that's trying to be something different from the original Death Wish, but it just fails on so many levels to do so. Kevin Bacon is not threatened in this movie whatsoever. There's just nothing that intense in this movie, and like I said, it's way too gory and violent for stupid reasons whatsoever. This is made by the same team that did Saw. James Wan directed this movie, and has a lot of the same people who worked on the Saw films, and there's just nothing of value here whatsoever. It's a bland, boring movie that feels like they have to go for shock value to get your attention, and it's just not worth it. There's just nothing of value here whatsoever. Like if I had to pick which one is the better James Wan movie, I guess I would probably say this one's better, but that's like saying which one do you like better? Do you like cock and ball torture, or do you want to be burned alive? Either way, it's not gonna hurt. Either way, it's not gonna feel good on me. It's gonna feel extremely painful. But I guess I gotta take the one that's at least the least uncomfortable. And I guess in this case, it's this movie, and it's just like, yeah, there's just nothing about it here that's worth it in the end. But it is the better movie that came out from James Wan this year, and it would take a couple years before he eventually became the director that we know him to be today. But other than that, though, yeah, this movie sucks. This is a terrible movie, a complete waste of time. Avoid this movie like the plague. And so with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Now, the next time we meet, we've got 3 movies to start off the month of September. We have James Mangold's remake of 3:10 to Yuma, starring Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. Clive Owen starring in the action comedy Shoot 'Em Up with Monica Bellucci and Paul Giamatti. And Bob Odenkirk, who gave us Let's Go to Prison last year with Will Arnett, reteams with Arnett, and brings in Will Forte into the mix for his latest comedy, The Brother Solomon. Is it better than Let's Go to Prison? We'll save that for next time around. But we got those 3 movies coming up on the next episode, so be sure to check that out. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please go ahead and hit the playlist on the next page. And also check out the video I've started working on here, which, this is basically just the first 3 episodes of Time About the Movies we ever did, back from the month of January 1989. I've compiled them together into one video. There's also another video out there with the best and worst movies of 1989, which is another clip show compilation video. So if you want to go check that out, go ahead and hit that on the next page. But also, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe button, the notification button, and the bell, because you get updates on when new videos come out, and we do post here every day. Now, with all that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.